Rejoice, everyone. We're back with another Sekhie Reacts to Fate.
For those of you who guessed Nezha, congrats. Not a lot of people guessed Nezha.
Yeah, Nezha.
But I did say that thing about historical figures, and then I didn't clarify that sometimes I consider literary figures to also qualify. Because here's an example of something like Nezha is popular enough in folklore that I would consider him to be historically important. You know? Mm-hmm. Also, someone says 2-star. So 3 mistakes in one stream would get us to...
So 2 stars, I believe, started at 55.
By the way, you can take the tea bag out. That's what this is for. Just, like, let it sit.
So if you have... Oh, okay. If you have a level 55 and you do 3 grills into that, it'll be 60. You'll take it... Eric would actually go to level 70.
Goddamn. Okay. Alright, so... Nezha, technically a deity of folk religion, Confucianism, Taoism, Chinese Buddhist religion. We've got this lovely art piece in the Wikipedia that you can see looking at Nezha. A really interesting character, in my opinion. So, I'll talk a little bit about Nezha, and we'll get into some of the people associated with him, because technically, we've already mentioned Nezha in a video we recorded before. Do you remember what that video was, Knick Knack?
Sanzong.
It was! Channeling my inner Dora. I think my green tea still needs to steep.
I'll put that there for you, though.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you'd squeeze it out a little so you got the maximal amount of tea, but okay. So, Nezha, his official Taoist name is Marshal of the Central Altar, and he's also called the Third Lotus Prince after he becomes a deity in folklore. So he is the patron deity of like childhood and children, basically, in several of the religions that he's featured in. So he's featured in several stories, the first being the Feng Shen Yan Yi, but like I said, he's also mentioned in the Journey to the West. So he is prevalent across folklores, and there's some interesting stuff going on with Nezha that I kind of want... You know what? It'd be better to do it now. So... There is, no, it's not better to do it now. Never mind. It's not better to do it now. But essentially, this is a character who spans a lot of different folklore traditions, which means he's really prevalent all across Eastern Asia. So, Nezha was born during the Shang dynasty, and if we remember our Chinese historical dynasties, the 3 earliest dynasties are Xia, Shang, and Zhou. So the Shang is technically the first that we have archaeological evidence for, which I discussed in our video about Tamamo no Mai, because we talked about the archaeological evidence that actually dates the Shang dynasty as a historical period that we have material culture from, but we don't have a whole lot of culture proving that there is a Xia dynasty. I think phoneticized H-S-I-A, Xia. So technically, first dynasty that we have archaeological evidence for, right? So, Shang dynasty, he was born in a fortress in Chengtang Pass. It's said that his father was the military commander named Li Jing, who would later become the pagoda-wielding heavenly king. His mother's name was Lady Yin, who gave birth to him after carrying him inside her for 3 years and 6 months. She gave birth to a pulsating ball of flesh, and his father was so surprised and disgusted that he sliced the ball of flesh open with his sword, and Nezha popped out, already a child who could walk and talk, not as a baby. Nezha could speak, talk, and he would be accepted by the immortal T.H.E. Zhanran as a student. Nezha has 2 older brothers, Jinzha and Muzha, who were also disciples of other heavenly immortals. So this has a lot to do with the 12 Chinese immortals. So I would touch really quickly on his older brothers, but Muzha, one of his 2 brothers, appears in the Feng Shen Yan Yi as well as the Collection of Gods in 3 Religions and the Journey to the West. He was born as a human and became a disciple of Samantabhadra and Guanyin. Guanyin is a goddess associated with mercy. They're both bodhisattvas. Muzha is also worshipped as a deity in folk religion called Muzha Tianzhen, and has a fair amount of sort of... He plays into Nezha's story a fair bit, but So he's apprenticed during his life, is apprenticed to Master Sangha, who is an avatar of Kuan Yin or Avalokitesvara. Eventually, this would be fictionalized into him being the apprentice named Zai Ju during Journey to the West, and then was blended with Hui An and became Mucha Hui An during the Great Ming period in the Journey to the West during that time. His story is featured in Volume 7 of the Collection of Three Gods, and in the Fengshen Yan Yi, he is the second son of Li Jing and Lady Yin, typically depicted wearing a top knot and seen as a celestial being in appearance. He studied under the superior, a learned man, so they're called, the closest English translation that's agreed on is superior man, something like that. So he studied under one of them, and then following the rebirth of Nezha, which we'll cover later, Li Jing, his father, would run into Muzha to save his life. Muzha would eventually battle it out with Nezha, and that story we'll get into a little bit later. In the Journey to the West, he comes up because he's ordered to conquer the Sun Demon and then later Sun Wukong, but lost to Red Boy. And he also ends up helping his father with the Guanyin Bodhisattva and conquering Red Boy, right? And then his other brother, so the oldest brother in this set, is Jinzha. Jinzha is a disciple of Wenshu Guangfa Tianjun, who's another one of these immortal superior men, the 12 Chinese immortals, essentially. And is Jinzha and Nezha are the same type of Taoist protective deities, which is interesting. He's also deified in Chinese folk religion. Jinzha is also a part of the 5 great wisdom kings in Tibetan Buddhism under the name Kundali or Ganlu Mingwang, who's responsible for healing, longevity, purification, and exorcism. But it's said that because of folklore, his name changed slightly from what it might have originally been to line up with his brother's name to make them sound very similar. He's also called the Great Crown Prince of Tuo Tianwang. So he's the first prince, and then his brothers are the second prince and the third prince. Jinzha is the eldest brother. He descends from the mountain where he was born on to assist King Wu to overthrow King Zhou of Shang. He's rational. He has really great grasp of military tactics and strategy, inheriting the wisdom of his master, Wenshu Guangfa Tianjun. It's said that he wears a yellow Taoist robe and has a magical weapon called the Dunlong Zhuang, which is like a spiritual snake, but that was crafted into a wooden stick with iron rings when not in use. However, when in use, extending to 9 meters in height, with iron hoops to be fastened around individuals, one at the neck, one at the waist, and one at the ankles, becoming tighter as it moves, which, interestingly enough, he actually used on Nezha at one point, as well as Wang Mo and Qin Wang, or Qin Tianjun, before being passed on to him. In Journey to the West, he serves on Mount Ling as a guardian under the command of the Tathagata Buddha at the time. Yeah. So I figured we'd probably cover his older brothers because they're fairly important into his story later. I also want to talk about, let's see, Li Jing, so his father. His father, like I said already before, becomes known as the pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li, this is where you get he's the son of deities, right, and stuff like that. So it's said that he has this tower that he carries with him that is capable of capturing any god, demon, or spirit within it, and is often analoged with Vaisravana from Indian mythology, right? He's also in the Journey to the West. We've talked about this before, like literally on the last couple. So he's known as a high-ranking commander during the Shang Dynasty of the Old Pond Pass. It's said that he studied at Mount Kunlun, becoming a master of fast underground travel, able to move thousands of kilometers without a single person noticing. He has a pretty rocky relationship with Nezha because Nezha is disobedient, short-tempered, partially because he swears he's going to kill Nezha, or tries to kill him, and that puts them at odds right to begin with. Nezha also causes a lot of chaos during his lifetime, and there was a point where there was a choice between Li Jing dying and Nezha dying. in Nezha's story. So at some point he would burn a temple built to Nezha's spirit, which put them in conflict with one another. At one point, his father seeing him after his resurrection and calling him a vermin, saying that when he was his child, he caused untold calamities, and asking why he would reincarnate to disturb the peace. Li Jing realized after battling Nezha, his mortal body did not match 1 to 100 like Nezha, so he ran as fast as he could, running into his second son. After his second son was defeated, he tried to commit suicide, but Wenshu Guangfa Tianzhen interceded, saving his life. His son was forced to submit to him after being restrained by Randeng Daoren, who then taught Li Jing how to use the Golden Tower to trap him. And that made him the pagoda bearer. So his father becoming the pagoda bearer is directly related to the actions of Nezha himself, which is really interesting because that's the kind of cyclical. His father is a deity because of his actions in conflict with his father. So his mother is interesting, Lady Yin, because Lady Yin in the stories will absolutely excuse anything that her son does. Based on the legend, she's supposed to be the second daughter of the Jade Emperor, right? And no matter what Nezha does, she still tries to excuse him. She still tries to say that he's a good boy and that he didn't mean any harm. And she does not at any point acknowledge that he's causing chaos and calamity, even to the point of being scolded several times by Li Jing.
My son is a good boy. He'd never do anything wrong. Ma'am, he just ran over a box of puppies with his truck.
He didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
He would never
He'll
do something
apologize.
like this.
Ma'am, he just committed active genocide and murdered his brothers. Well, they must have antagonized him. That's very much the relationship that he and his mother have. And I think that's hilarious because his father is very openly against him, as opposed to his mother being very embracing of him. Let's see. Shut. And I figured it might be interesting to mention now before we go on, because there's not a better place to put this, but there's two important characters I've mentioned so far in Chinese folklore and Buddhism and Taoism before we get into Nezha. So the first is T.H.E. Zhenran. So T.H.E. Zhenran is the one who would take Nezha under his wing and become his teacher. He is one of the 12 golden immortals under Yuanqi Tianzhen. He's fifth of them. And his based on the Lord of Suffering, practicing in the Golden Light Cave of Qianyuan Mountain. And he's the leader of the Qingwei sect and master of Nezha and Jinsha Tong-er. So that's a little bit of background on T.H.E. Zhenshun. And then Wenshu Guangfa Tianzhen is also, so he's also a disciple of Yuanqi Tianzhen and one of the 3 great immortals, holding a position amongst the 12 great immortals as well. It's said that his character is possibly derived from the Bodhisattva Manjusri, although according to the Xunshan Qianpo Tianmen and the Western Tang Dynasty biography, it's said that they are not the same person. So some sources analogize them and some say that they're distinctly 2 different people, but it's potentially that Manjusri Bodhisattva transforms into Wenshu Guangfan Tianjia, one of the protectors of Taoism, to resolve religious conflicts in the Western regions where the story is told. Guangfa Tianzhen is the man in charge of the 5 Dragons Mountain and Clown Top Cave, teaches Jinzha, the first son of Li Jing, and he's supposedly even greater than Nezha's teacher, T.H.E. Zhenran. So I think that's important to note here, right? Let's get that into perspective. What?
Nothing.
You got a look on your face. What up?
Oh no, I'm just looking at the spot where my dog chipped the glass on my glasses.
Oh yeah. Your poor glasses. I'm so sorry.
I have a new pair coming in a week or so.
Still, that's expensive to... well, I mean, yours aren't as expensive as mine, but that's still money to replace.
It's still a good amount of money, because I have blue light filters because I work on a computer all day.
Yeah. Alright, so... Nezha, we already covered his birth. So, at one point, the people of Chongtang Pass asked for rain, and they sacrificed a bunch of food to the Eastern Sea Dragon King Aoguang, who was in charge of the rain. The king rejected the food because he wanted girls and boys to be sent to him for him to eat. So he sent out Li Gan, who was meant to capture him, a girl and a boy. At the time when Li Gen went out, Nezha and there were a couple other children, they were playing by the sea, and so Li Gen captured one of Nezha's friends. Nezha fought him because of this, injuring him severely, meaning that he had to return to the king and beg someone else to take care of Nezha. So the Dragon King sends Aobing, his third son, who Nezha slays in open combat. Aoguang then called his brothers, and they confronted Nezha and his family, threatening to flood the Chentang Pass and report Nezha to the Jade Emperor. In order to save his family from this fate, Nezha would end up killing himself, carving up his own flesh and dismembering his own bones to return them to his parents in repayment for the debt of his birth, at which point the Dragon Kings hosted a huge celebration. So a lot of people will say this is an example of like extreme Chinese filial piety. Like, he has brought this calamity to his family, and the only way he can atone and prevent his family from going to ruin is to carve himself up and repent for the sin of his birth, right? So that's how some people see that section. But a little while later, he appears in some of his mother's dreams, and he beseeches her to build a temple to him for his soul to rest. This links to his birth, because the night before he was born, she had a dream where a Taoist put something in her chest and told her to take the child. So she builds a secret temple for him that flourishes, becomes well known, and grows very large. Nezha grants miracle cures to the sick and the crippled, but Li Jing finds out about this and burns it down, we mentioned a second ago, because he's angry about the amount of trouble that Nezha has caused to his family. As a result of Li Jing burning his temple, Nezha desperately desires his father's death. So he's later brought back to life by his teacher T.H.E. Zhenren, who used lotus roots to build a body for his soul, giving him two weapons at the same time, the wind fire wheels and the fire-tipped spear. Along with the reincarnation of Nezha, so when he was reincarnated, Lingji and Nezha fought many times. Lingji's mortal body was no match for Nezha, so he would end up running for his life eventually, meeting his second son Muzha. Muzha fought against Nezha and was ultimately defeated by him. And so Li Jing attempts suicide, stopped by Wenshuang Guanfa Tianjin, who contains Nezha in the end, forcing him to submit to his father via another deity, Randeng Daoren. In the Journey to the West story, Nezha is born with the word ne on the palm of his left hand, and on his right palm is the word ja, giving his name Nezha. In this story, he causes havoc in the Eastern Ocean, and the Heavenly King, worried about the consequences, decides to kill Nezha, and he returns his flesh and blood to his mother and his bones to his father, sending his soul to Buddha, who then resurrected him. After that, he subdued 96 caves of demons through Dharma and his vast powers, and then tried to kill his father because he tried to remove every piece of flesh and every stain of blood to return his bones. The Heavenly King sought help from the Buddha giving him a golden pagoda, and then this pagoda was used to imprison him, right? So he's usually depicted in mythology and folklore as a young boy instead of an adult. He flies on his wind fire wheels and has the universe ring around his body or on his left hand, with the red sash on his shoulders and the fire-tipped spear in his right hand. He does have a 3-head, 6-arm form, which I assume comes from the close association with Indian tradition, where you get a lot of the bodhisattvas and the characters in Buddhist and Taoist folklore are depicted in a traditionally Indian way in some places. Now, there's this one scholar, right? His name is May Shahar, right? And he says, so he's got this whole theory going, which I think is pretty interesting, but he says that the name Nezha comes from Nalakuvara, right? Who was a Yaksha general in the Mahamayura, right? The Mahamayura is an Indian story. So he says that the link comes from the variants of his Chinese name and Tantric Buddhist texts. The original variation was supposedly Naluo Jupoluo, which got changed to Naluo Jubaluo, right? And then to Naja Jualuo, and then Nezha, right? With the addition of the mouth radical to Na being the thing that changed his name to the current form of Nezha, right? In addition, he says Nalakuvara's father, Kuberta, was absorbed into the Buddhist pantheon, also known as the Heavenly King Vaisravana. And remember, his father Li Jing has been compared with Vaisravana, which would connect both him and his father to a father and son character. They also say that the second figure is the child god Krishna. Krishna and Nezha are both powerful children that defeat mighty serpents, Kaliya for Krishna and Aobing for Nezha. And so by looking at that together, you can see the connection of the two mythologies. The Bhagavad Purana describes how Nalakubar was rescued from imprisonment within a tree by Krishna, which suggests a link between the two characters. I think that's a very interesting theory, and I certainly don't discount it because of the sheer amount of mixing that happened in Buddhist and Taoist faith, especially in localized folklore. I mean, we've already talked about how messy Buddhism can get, right? Just when looking at Buddhist stories and such. And when you add in, several thousand miles and Taoist and local folklore, it would make sense that characters would just be kind of analogied together to create a singular character because the stories were so similar, because it allows you to reconcile your current faith with the faith that's being brought in without actually making any significant changes. So that's in my opinion very interesting. Fun fact, Nezha, in the Journey to the West, Nezha does show up as a general under his father, fighting Sun Wukong when Sun Wukong rebels against the Jade Emperor, and Nezha and Sun Wukong would later become friends, with him appearing several times to help the four protagonists defeat powerful demons like his sister, Lady Earthflow.
Did you think you were the only Heavenly King prospect in this?
No, but so Ao Guang, we've talked about Ao Guang before. I just thought I'd bring that up. So Ao Guang is the Dragon King that Sun Wukong seeks out to get his staff from, which I think is really fun. I don't think I need to get into that. Let's see. I pulled up another page of something else, but I don't think it was super important. If anyone in the comments is interested in the connection and crossover between him and the Indian god that Shah Mahar says that he is analogous with, I recommend you check out a book called The Oedipal God, The Chinese Nezha and His Indian Origins. It's published by the University of Hawaii Press in 2015. It's written by Meir Shahar. I've read this book for this video, and I do think that there's some very, very interesting comparisons brought up in it, and I think it's a fun book to read if you're into the kind of crossover and connection between Indian and Chinese traditional folklore. So I would highly recommend that book to anyone who's actually interested in that sort of story. That's what I've got. I don't think you gave me anything else for Nezha.
No, this is not Nezha. A particularly complicated series.
I don't think I even needed to go into Muzha or Li Jing as much as I did, but I felt they were necessary to the story.
I didn't actually need you to look this up, but you want me to give you a little pop quiz here on someone that's completely unrelated, but like in the Indian Mahabharata kind of sphere? Their name's gonna come up much later.
Okay.
Kubera, the Lord of Wealth. Any thoughts, or do you know that one?
Didn't I just say that?
Did you?
No, I think I mentioned someone else.
Yeah, this is to my knowledge completely unrelated, but
okay.
Doesn't matter too much if you don't have anything on.
I don't know much about Kubara. I know the name and I know who they are. I don't know much about them in particular because Indian mythology isn't a specialty of mine at the moment. Yeah. It is something I'm very much interested in learning more about, but it's not something that I've had time to study.
Dear God, you want some tea with that sugar? I'm kidding.
There is so much tea in this cup. Do not shame me for putting a little bit of sugar in my fucking tea.
No sugar at all.
Yeah, well, I like my tea sweet. Get fucked.
So, yeah, you ready to get started?
Stirring. Yes. I guess I can guess what type of servant it is?
What class do you think?
I
feel like you can get it pretty easily.
Yeah, maybe Lancer, because it's his spear, the red fire spear, yeah, in his right hand. Yeah, okay.
Didn't expect this character of all to be gender bent, did you?
Okay, that was my question. Is it a gender bent? No, I didn't expect that to be gender bent. But, I mean, I'm not mad at it. Let's see. Pretty simple design, I'm going to be honest. Is Nezha an older servant or a newer one?
Somewhere in the middle. She came out during part 1.5, which is like year 3-ish.
Look, her fire wheels.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The sprite's definitely a lot more complex than the artwork is.
Yeah, I like the sprite a lot. Ooh, I assume there's something going on there.
Yes.
That we're going to get into. Does it have something to do with the Indian crossover mythology?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So...
Well, okay, I'm going to be real. The reason why I looked at you in a panic when I first saw the character was because the first thought in my mind was, it's a trap! Because fate has me so conditioned to just expect the worst. You know what I mean?
I mean... So this is not a... I'm going to be jumping into the vocabulary that I am not qualified to speak with, by the way. Mm-hmm. Nezha is not a cisgendered woman.
I do see a note down here that says actually genderless, so I'm assuming it's because the concept of Nezha they're saying is like genderless.
No, so Nezha was male.
Well, yeah, that's what. So why are they giving it female or genderless?
When Nezha as a male was always more willing to be more effeminate in Fate.
Okay.
But when Nezha was reconstructed with the new bamboo body, they just They created a female body for Nezha.
Okay.
Because they thought Nezha wouldn't care.
Okay. All right. That's an explanation.
A few other characters we see I believe a few other characters we see will actually continue on. Like Fate will link a few characters to Nezha's reconstructed body later on.
I see Bishamonten in that father familial relationship. I wonder. I'm gonna check something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Normally, I would just like remove this from a video if I'm like checking something. Oh! I did mention Kubara. Technically, it's Vice Ravana.
Ah.
The same character, but under 2 different names.
Okay.
That's why it was familiar to me. So I did mention Kubara technically because Kubara is also known. So Vice Ravana is the Buddhist deity name for the Hindu deity Kubera. Okay. Also known as Bishamonten and Duowen Tianwang.
So,
okay.
I will mention now that I have very, very little to say on Nezha for this video. Aww. Because Nezha makes appearances in 3 full-ass story chapters. In each of them, Nezha's kind of a nothing character in them. Like, Nezha has some cool abilities. We'll get around to Nezha's abilities later. Mm-hmm. But, like, story-wise, Nezha has been kind of snubbed.
Aww. But that doesn't feel fair. Because Nezha's cool.
I like Nezha.
Nezha's a really cool character. I don't know why they would be stuck. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I would not snub them. They seem really cool. You know?
Mm-hmm. Do we have relationships at all?
Well, yeah. Oh, you have no personality to tell me about?
I didn't, like, have a lot on her.
Okay, because I cut you off before you got to relationships, so if you had anything, you could say that.
Yeah, most of my commentary and my notes was on the circumstances of her reconstruction. Because, like, you probably see it there. Type Moonwiki does not have much on her, and she's not the most fleshed out character. Mm-hmm. We get a little bit more on her other form that you got a sneak preview of in the FGO wiki. But here, like, it's mostly going to be the stuff you've already read. She hates her father. And then I believe Fate does have, because she's a reconstructed body, Fate does poke a little bit at her being a little bit more passive and like not robotic, but robotic.
Okay. All right. So then I'll read the relationships. Useless monk, clumsy monk, chicken monk, crybaby monk, running away to the great sage, of course follow, also unavoidable. Phew. No matter where you are, your heart is always traveling. Traveling is nice, but that person's destiny is to jump into danger, huh? Huh. That's Zhuanzang Sanzang. Okay. Lu Bu Fengshan, famous person? Horse robot? Lu Bu is Lu Bu, yeah. That tells me nothing. Red hair. Lu Bu? Horse? Horse! Thou art a horse! What the fuck? Tota, great sage, equal of heaven, no. But that was a good disciple. Xuanzang Sanzang's disciple. In some way you look like monkey, yes? Ah, sorry. I can see the kind of robotic speech because that's the random periods. That's Indra's son, the blessed black one. Nervous. Ooh, that was Arjuna. Okay. That's Surya's son, the charitable white one. Feeling a bit of pity for him. Okay, Tamamanamai. Huh. Great son, Buddha. Ooh, bright. What's that? Eyes are breaking. Robin, Green Archer, speaks offhand and is forlorn, though it is fine. If you leave, at least you're back to him. Oh, so trusts Robin to watch her back? His back? Their back? Their back. Abby, friend, although you are far away, you are also nearby. Aww.
So we got a request from a commenter to just give a read over the personality section.
Okay. Oh, no, I did read it. I don't always read it out loud, but I did read it. I saw the, robotic, childish aura. Her verbal expression is awkward. That makes sense. She tries to be thoroughly strict to evil and just to the masses. Probes about goodness and wickedness. Being one who does not keep up on social norms. There are more times when she would rush into a situation. Okay. She regrets her past where she hated her father, which is interesting, especially, because she says that the latter was just trying to take care of his child tenderly. Okay. Dreams of meeting with the great sage equal to heaven and wants to have a showdown with him. And very devoted to the master. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I usually read it while he's talking, but yeah.
I'll say this about her, because I do remember what her role was in Sanzang Coming to the West, because I have fervently tried to review that story just to get an understanding of what the hell actually happens. I didn't actually read that one when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Sanzang's first appearance was like a full ass year to year and a half before she actually came out.
Mm-hmm.
Or not Sanzang, I mean Nezha's.
Mm-hmm.
And she came about in the Sanzang's Journey to the West event, and I believe was the one monitoring or testing Sanzang.
Mm-hmm.
But they kept her identity secret till the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So that.
Okay.
Otherwise, her roles and stories just tend to be side character. She joins for the Chinese singularity or Chinese Lost Belt, and for the Indian Lost Belt she's along as well.
And there's a little gif here of Nezha fighting the Lost Belt version of Qin Liang Yu.
Yes.
Kind of seeing a little bit.
Yeah. Get a couple of those gifs from the trailers.
Yeah.
So ability wise, this is where I think Nezha gets a lot more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Nezha's artificial body is held together by a spiritual core in the shape of a pearl. So as long as that is intact, she can continue to revive herself. She'll fight with a variety of spiritual items, but namely the flame-tipped spear. She can use that same fire to empower her own body. And by her own claim, she rivals Sun Wukong in power. And we all know Sun Wukong is up there in theory from what we understand.
I'm gonna be honest. Nobody does fun folklore stories like Asia. Asia really has the top of it.
If I had to liken her ability-wise to anyone else in Fate, she's surprisingly similar to Enkidu with being a living noble phantasm kind of deal.
Okay. Yes, I see magic resistance. Taoist techniques, that makes sense. Inherited from Tai Zhenren. Spirit Pearl, because of her core. All right. Protections of Tathagata. Right? I talked about her visiting with Tathagata, Shakyamuni Tathagata.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, her 3 heads, 6 arms technique.
So that was in the Noble Phantasms, right?
Actually, no. It's the protection of Tathagata says simultaneously it seals her 3 arms, 6. I hadn't gotten down to that yet. I'm on Noble Phantasm now. So her first one is Flying Bright Spirit, Fire Tipped Spear. So that I assume is a combination of her flying or moving fast using her windfire wheels and then the Fire Tipped Spear.
Yeah. So with that one, she basically becomes her and the spear basically become conceptually one thing, creating a massive. She flies into the sky and comes down on the enemy in a fiery blaze of glory.
I love that. Down in a blaze of glory.
The other noble phantasm, the three faces, 6 arms, is
over,
not one we've seen.
Overarching immortal beast.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's never used this in FGO. I think it says there it's just sealed.
Mm-hmm.
But here, in theory, she can increase her size up to 6 times larger than her usual size and become a multi-faced and multi-armed divine beast.
Mm-hmm.
which in theory would be a big trump card. We just haven't seen it yet.
I just read the comments from the illustrator. A mecha. Why in the world is Nezha a mecha? Eventually I took care of the mecha-like aspect of hers, to the extent that I was satisfied. But at first I had considered reverse joints. I'm glad I didn't do that, don't you agree? While it's disappointing since my Nezha's noble phantasm level is 1, I'm looking forward to her pickup at my humble Chaldea. So I guess this artist plays.
Oh, it's hilarious when you have, like, artists, voice actors, and, like, writers that play as well. Because they're like, I love this servant so much, I put so much work into them. I can't get them.
I will say, however, after seeing that, I was a little curious about the ball-jointed knees and the way that her legs looked. I assume that is the mecha version of the fire-tipped wheels. Yeah, okay. That makes sense now. Also, this person did...
Who else did this person do?
It's the same character illustrator as Eric Bloodaxe. Also, Boudica, Jaguar Man, Parvati, Charlotte Corday, and Lady Kasuga. And
okay.
Yeah.
Lady Kasuga, I'm pretty sure it's just Parvati.
But the fact that it's Bloodaxe is a little funny.
We can never escape the Bloodaxe on this stream.
Alright, so you've got a noble phantasm for me.
Yep.
Alright. Oh yeah, because she's glowing with fire now as she kind of floats in the air. Oh, interesting. Oh my god, fucking Wyverns. Fucking Wyvern's fate. Okay. I mean, to be fair, Lancers always lance, so lances make sense, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like an archer who does anything but arch.
Samurai Remnant Archer's a good archer. Like, he actually arches.
I think they did a really good job with the animations for the fire wheel chariot.
No, I love her animations in her, like, battle sprite.
Yeah, she, like, it's a lot of fun to watch her because she's very dynamic as a character, like, in movement. Like, she moves a lot more than I expect from a sprite sometimes.
I've always maintained that I think she has the most potential for some really cool moments in story that they just never tap into.
Yeah, she looks really cool. I think I would be really happy to have her as a character.
I'm just saying, can we get, like, Super Nezha, please?
Yes.
And, like, give her a huge story moment?
Nezha, Grand Lancer. I know it's not, but...
Well, the Grand Servants can cycle in and out. We have multiple Grand Assassins and multiple Grand Casters.
I want Grand Lancer Nezha, then. Oh, that's cool.
The twirl.
Yeah.
There are more frames in that than Kuzco.
There really were. You know, not that I'm complaining or anything that Ku didn't get as much love as Nezha.
Are you saying you want an animation update for Lancer Ku?
Yes. I want an animation update for all Kus. I want them to crash the game. Ooh. Oh yeah, she's going up into the air. Oh, a lotus. Ah, nuke. Burn it with fire. Apparently. That was cool. All right.
So we have another form of Nezha that you saw briefly earlier. It's not a lot to go over, but we have Nezha Alter, or Nezha. People call him Nezha Alter. It's just Nezha Berserker, though.
Okay.
This is a Nezha that appears during the events of Yuga Kshetra. She is technically just another summonable version of Nezha that is much more childish and violent than normal Nezha. It's based off Nezha from earlier in her tale, like, full.
But I see also imbued with the Indian analog of Li Jing, Kubera, also known as Vice Ravana.
So, like, in the story that she comes from in Yuga Kshetra, like, so this is part of the area where Nezha gets completely just put to the side. Nezha shows up, and at the very beginning of the chapter, Nezha Berserker instantly comes in and jobs Nezha. I'm just like, damn it, give us another cool Nezha moment as a character. So Nezha Berserker ends up being our primary Nezha character in that chapter. And Nezha Berserker, so Nezha is largely the same, so abilities-wise, I'll jump to that first. So ability-wise, Nezha is largely the same servant outside of a presumed class change and some skill switch-outs, like passives, like madness enhancement. Except in Yuga Kshetra, she's forcibly merged with Kubera, Lord of Wealth.
Yeah, who's analog to her father.
The power enhanced her combat abilities to an astronomical level, but left her remarkably unstable, stripping her of conscious thought and slowly degrading her own body every time she really took advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
She uses that to advantage because she does not want to be working with Arjuna Alter in that Lost Belt to effectively commit suicide by Chaldea.
Interesting. Interesting. I don't have any relationships for her, unfortunately.
No, because she's not summonable in FGO.
So I can't, but there is a note down here about how she feels about seeing Lancer Nezha, who she considers a truer version of herself. Because she considers being a puppet with her own power and her father's power to be fate worse than death.
Yep.
That's interesting. Okay. All right. Well, we don't have anything else about her, I assume, just the...
Yep, just there's that and then the battle sprite you saw earlier.
Okay. All right. So that means gallery. Aww. What?
Nothing. You're good.
Oh my god, flaming baseballs holding her up. I love it. Oh, she's so cute. God damn it, what is it today with cute servants? Fuck. I did see her April Fools. Okay. Alright. Got a couple different stages. Alright. Scroll down, see what we got. We don't have any extra art, unfortunately. We do have a foot pick. Alright. Oh god, that did not open. Okay. Okay. Alright, Universe Ring. So we talked about how she's depicted with the Universe Ring around her, right? The Universe Rings, like the red armillary sash, are one of the famed Baobei of Jinguangdong. It was a Taoist weapon that was presented to T.H.E Zhenren to celebrate Nezha's birth. Since then, Nezha always carried it with her. The weapon can expand and contract at will. They are usually worn around the wrist as a pair of bracelets, but they quickly turn into a pair of circular blades like chakrams the moment they leave the body. Nezha uses this weapon like a semi-autonomous drone. When she throws them up in the air and shouts Ji, the rings shoot towards the enemy, and when she shouts Ting, they stop in midair, and they return to her hand when she shouts Lai. But there was a time when Nezha didn't carry the Universe Rings. They were taken from her in the battle against Lady Rock, and later retrieved by T.H.E Zhenren, who kept them temporarily. From the time of Nezha's suicide to save her human parents and to atone for her sins until her rebirth, they were out of her position. To Nezha, this Baobei is closely associated with humiliating and regrettable moments. Therefore, she would never entrust the Universe Rings to another unless she trusted them absolutely. If there was someone whom Nezha trusted enough to give one of the rings, it would mean that she considered the person so close as to be a part of herself, and it would also represent a vow that she will always resurrect and come back to the holder, no matter what. It's cool that they're like chakrams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many Lotus lovers out there? Valentine's chocolate. In a Chinatown in a port city located of a foreign land, a back alleyway away from the bustling main streets will lead you to a confectionery shop. The shop owners are an aging man and his wife and 3 cats. A few years back, a young couple related to the aging shop owners traveled to this land. In the beginning, there were many problems, there were even fights, but the young couple worked hard and earnestly. Their disappointments eventually gave way to hope and security. Lunar New Year is coming once again. The shop gets quite busy making traditional confectionery that is essential to every Chinese person living abroad. And it was then that a certain order came in. Qingrenjie Chao Keli, Valentine's Day chocolates. It appears the order is for a crafted confectionery for Valentine's Day. In the past, the shop owners made their famous confections and delivered them to large shops, but their weakened eyesight forced them to stop. They wanted to refuse the order, but it came from an old friend. But requesting a lotus flower confectionery for Valentine's Day is an odd choice, they thought. Every morning, the shop owners visit the town shrine. When praying, they recalled the discussion with the young couple. They are with child, and they want the aging couple to think of a name for their unborn child. A lotus flower is a symbol of children and a prayer for safe childbirth. After some thought, the shop owners decide to accept the order. Okay. According to Nezha, she was recommended to purchase this chocolate from the above-mentioned location by Archer of the Kitchen. I can guess who that is. Is it Archer Emiya?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Can you tell Emiya is cooking mom?
Yes, Frost Shard, I noticed that. It did make me very sentimental.
What?
Take in mind she gave the rings to you and thus promised to always return to the master. Alright. Heroic spirit, travel outfit. Oh my god, she's covered in pandas. So cute. Yeah, it features Nezha and Robin Hood's bird.
Robin Hood's bird is just a you've seen it in Mihoyo too, the one what it's based off of.
The little blue jay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, 3rd anniversary. Okay. Frozen war bear. I mean, frozen war bear.
Frozen war bear.
The moment we encountered it in the snowy forest, it started relentlessly chasing us, with a gun in our right hand and a blade on our left. Survive. Fight for our tomorrow. Solo leveling. Ice bears.
Ice bears.
Tank. Okay. All right. Midsummer Memories. Do I know the second character there? I don't know if... Is it... No, I don't. Okay. The act of enjoying summer can happen to anyone, even to those who are not human. They are all heroic spirits. The time they have here may be limited, but they will fill in this brief moment with many memories. Okay. T.H.E. Oh my god, it's Chinese food. It's dim sum. What makes a meal delicious? Is it superb ingredients? A chef's skill? No, you mustn't forget that it's the services of the hard-working waitstaff that makes the meal. Their actions alone can sate one's heart. Here's your meat bun with extra doubanjiang spicy sauce. Eat it while it's hot. That's valid. All right, we've got heroic event spirit attire. Oh, so this is the festivals one from 2023, where they're all in different festivals. This is the festival that I thought was Diwali, but isn't Diwali. It's the Lantern Festival. Yeah. But it's Indian-inspired outfit, and I think that looks really pretty. Not Indian. Southeast Asian, I think. I think this is Southeast Asian inspired, because somebody talked about the Red Lantern Festival in the comments to the last time I mentioned it, because I had thought it was Diwali. But apparently it's a Southeastern Asian festival called the Lantern. I've heard of this festival before. For some reason, I automatically thought of Diwali when I saw like the more Indian inspired, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's Nezha. Any thoughts as we
got 2 bangers in a row today. Nezha's great. I like Nezha a lot. It's super fun. I am disappointed that Fate doesn't do more with Nezha, because I really feel like this character is being underutilized personally.
I am too. Like, I was a while back, like this was like a year or so ago. My brother and I were talking about servants, and my brother was like, Nezha's a nothing character. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? No, if you look at the lore here. Look at how much like she can do. She rivals Sun Wukong. She's not weak. Fate just doesn't know what to do with her.
Yeah, literally fights 1-to-1 against Sun Wukong and then becomes friends with him.
Yeah.
Like I think there's room for Fate to do more with them.
The problem is they've already put her into 3 stories and none of them did much with her.
Well, then they need to do better. Petition. I will sign a petition to make Nezha better. I'm not
talking like event stories. I'm talking main story chapters they've put her in and sidelined her each time.
So which 3 main chapters is she in? I know one of them.
So her original event was Journey to the West, where she was not an NPC.
Okay, and I know you said Journey to the West ended up being a really bad chapter. Like
no one really remembers it, and no one liked the gameplay of it at all.
Okay, because Journey to the West could have been so good. A story that we literally got Dragon Ball out of. How do you fuck up Journey to the West? It is one of the best stories ever. It's
just an early FGO events. They did not put any effort into the writing at all.
I know, but I'm just saying that's a shame, because that could have been an amazing event.
And then later on, she was brought in because I believe she was one of those servants that was sitting in the files for a long time. Mm-hmm. Like they knew they were putting her in, they just didn't know where. And her first proper introduction was during Salem.
Okay. Oh, yes. Somebody in the comments said that the Alice she was referring to not Alice, Abby, is Salem Abbey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
which would make sense when she said, like you're a long ways away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then she is literally the first servant summoned in the New Chaldea during the Sin chapter, or the Chinese lost all the prologue for it.
Okay.
So she goes with everyone on that chapter as well. She just kind of got overshadowed by Spartacus of all people.
And then she's technically in Yuga Kshetra.
Yeah, but then she gets jobbed at the very beginning.
Okay. Yeah, that's really kind of disappointing because Nezha's the kind of character that, like, Nezha and Sun Wukong both are the kind of characters that if fate was really, like, fate would basically make them, like, super powerful and, like, super, like, awesome because they're kind of like the Arjuna and Karna of, like, China, you know? Like, I don't see why you wouldn't make Nezha and Sun Wukong super fucking awesome and have them show up constantly.
I think her final chance in FGO is going to be whenever they eventually introduce Sun Wukong.
Oh, yeah. I really hope that we then get, like a good relationship between the two of them. You know? Like, that would be great. It would be a nice nod to the story because once they introduce Sun Wukong, theoretically they would bring Nezha in the context from Journey to the West, wherein eventually they become friends, right? Because the only time that they're in conflict is early in the story when Sun Wukong rebels against the Jade Emperor, and then after that, during the actual journey, they're friends.
And our Nezha is like a very developed Nezha, like at the very end of the story of her story. So
which should be when they're friends already.
So it's going to depend on Sun Wukong's role in the story more than anything. But
that makes sense.
That's like the last chance I can ever see of Nezha really being given a good shot as a major character.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So yeah, I didn't offer a hint in our last Reacts outro. Do we not want to offer a hint?
We can. Actually, you know what? We talked about this during last year's 8-hour stream. The next video.
Well, that was my hint during the community post. Was that?
Oh, was it? Okay. No. You can try another one. Let's see if anyone can guess before we start the next. Who's going to be in the next video?
I think some people have already put in some
Some
guesses.
people have put in guesses, but no one's actually gotten it right. Like, people are jumping around it, but no one's right.
No, I think no one's been 100% right.
No one's been 100%.
Except I feel like I saw some, like, maybe closer to 100% right guesses. It's hard. It's hard. I'd have to, like, really... I could pick things apart, but I don't want to say nobody was right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, based on the comments that I saw as of yesterday, no one was 100% right. The closest person made an assumption about length that, you know, made them be a little bit wrong in the end.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we should probably transition out, so we'll see you all next time if you're watching YouTube, and we're still here if you're watching the stream.